It is no secret that I am a big fan of bandanas. I wear them practically all summer long. Seeing how summer is right around the corner, I thought it would be a good idea to grow my collection of bandanas. So I made this. I made this daisy or like spiky circle pattern bandana, and it is quite an easy project. It is definitely beginner friendly, and it's a great way to use up some scrap yarn. So allow me to share with you how to make this. For this bandana, I will be doing proper daisy colors. So I have yellow and white, and then this blue has just been sitting in my house for years now, and I finally am going to just use it up because it needs to have a use. I'm just using acrylic scrap yarn, and I'm also using a 4.25 millimeter hook. So I have my yellow yarn here for the center of the daisy, and I already have it attached to my hook, and I'm just going to start by chaining 4. 2, 3, 4. And then I'm just going to do a slip stitch into the very first chain here, which this makes what is called a magic circle. So then I'm going to chain 3, and that acts as our first double crochet. So then I'm going to do 11 more double crochets into the center of this circle. 10 and 11. I'm going to slip stitch into the third or the top chain here to secure our circle. Just like so. Then I'm just going to cast off, and I do that by chaining 1 and cutting my yarn, leaving enough of a tail that I can weave it in later, and then I just pull it and tighten it. There is the center of our daisy, and now I'm going to attach the white yarn so we can begin the petals. It doesn't matter where in the circle you attach the white, so I'm just going to go for right here. So now I'm going to chain 4. 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to be doing some treble stitches, which I feel like are not as well known, so let me walk you through it quickly just in case. So first you're going to yarn over twice, so 1, 2, and then I'm going to put my hook back in the same spot as the chain, pull the yarn through, and then I'm going to pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So then you still have 2 loops on your hook, and I'm going to yarn over again twice and back in the same stitch, and then go through 2, go through 2, 2, and now I have 3 loops here on my hook, so I'm going to yarn over again and pull it through all 3, making our first petal. So then I'm going to chain 2, 2, and then I'm going to do 3 treble stitches into the next stitch here. So I yarned over twice, pull through 2, pull through 2, yarn over twice, pull through 2, pull through 2. I've got the 3, but I'm going to do 1 more stitch, so yarn over twice, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then I'm going to pull through all 4 of these, like so. Chain 2, and then I'm going to be placing 3 of these treble stitches into every single stitch all the way around until we have 12 petals, doing 2 chains in between each petal. Okay, and then I'm just going to chain 2 and do a slip stitch into the 4th chain here. Now we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 petals all the way around, which is exactly what I have. So now I can cast off my yarn. So I'm going to do a single stitch, leave a tail. Now that we've got our daisy, I'm going to attach the border color, and again, it doesn't really matter where you start it from. I'm just going to go here, like so, and then I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this chain now acts as our first treble crochet. So then I'm going to do 2 more complete treble crochets into this same section. And I say complete because we're going to follow this all the way through. So again, I yarn over twice, and then I'm going to pull through 2, pull through 2, and instead of leaving these 2 behind, I'm going to also pull through 2, which this is an actual treble crochet stitch. So I'm going to do 1 more, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then I'm going to chain 1 and then put 3 double crochets into this next section here. 1, 2, 3, and then chain 1 and another 3 double crochets into this section. 1, 2, and 3. So then I'm going to chain 1, and now we can start our first corner. So I'm going to do 3 treble crochets into this next section. 2 and 3 of those treble crochets, and then I'm going to chain 3, 2, 3, and then do another 3 treble crochets into the same section. This is making the corner of our square. And 3. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm just going to repeat that all the way around, doing 2 sections of double crochet and 1 section as a corner until I reach the end here. And 3 more double crochets here, 2 and 3. Okay, so now that I've reached this corner, oh, and I chain 1. Okay, so now that we're at this corner here, we've already done half of the corner with our chain and our 2 treble crochets. So I'm just going to do another 3 treble crochets into the same section. 2 and 3, and then just chain 3 and slip stitch it into the 4th chain or the top chain here to close off our square. And here is our very first daisy square, and you're going to need 3 of these, so just follow the same tutorial to make 2 more of these squares. Alright, so here are my 3 completed daisy squares, and now we're almost halfway done. We just need to make these half granny squares that go along the top of the bandana here. So I'm going to take more of my base color, and I'm just going to start by making another magic circle, only this time I'm chaining 3. So 1, 2, 3, and then slip stitch into the first chain here. Then I'm going to chain 3, 2, 3, and this acts as our first double crochet. So we're going to do 3 more double crochets into the middle of the circle. 2, 3. Then I'm going to chain 2, and then place 4 double crochets again into the middle of the circle. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now I'm going to chain 3 and turn my work. It's already starting to make this little triangle shape here, and I'm going to do 3 double crochets now in between the first and the second stitch. And I'm not placing these where you normally would when you crochet, which is up towards the top here. Instead, I'm going down between the actual stitches itself, and I'm going between the first and the second crochet here, and I'm going to place 3 double crochets right in this spot. 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to put 3 double crochets in this top section here. Oops. 2, 3. Chain 2, and then put 3 more double crochets in the same section. 2, and then I'm going to place 4 double crochets in between the last stitch, which is actually our chain here, and then the second to last stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Chain 3, and turn my work. I'm just going to do the exact same thing again, starting with the double crochets down on the bottom, except I will be putting 3 double crochets into these sections that have just appeared from our last row. So I'm going to start here and do 3 double crochets. Three and 4. Okay, and then I'm going to chain 3 and turn my work. And then I'm just going to do the exact same thing all the way around until I've created 4 rows, not counting our starting circle here. Another way that you can make sure that you do indeed have enough rows is it should be able to line up nicely with the square and the corners should match each other. So this is now a perfect half square. So I'm just going to cast off my work. And now you're going to need to make 3 of these. Here are my 3 completed half granny squares, and then I also went ahead and wove in all of the loose ends on these squares here, so we're ready to make the shape of our bandana. So I'm going to start with these 3 daisies, and then I fill in the empty spaces with these triangles. I'm going to go here, here, and here, making one big triangle. So now I'm going to take a darning needle and more of this blue yarn, and I'm just going to sew along the inside seams here to attach the entire triangle together. And I will make sure I'm sewing with the wrong side facing up. That way it'll be nice and crisp when we flip it over. And I'm just making sure that my stitches and the squares are completely lined up as I go along so there's no overlap or confusion later. So I've now sewed all the squares together, so I'm just going to go along and sew all of these triangles into the top here. And I'm going to start on this side, that way I can just work the same thread all the way across and there'll be less tails I have to weave in at the end. Again, I'm making sure that all the stitches are lined up and that I'm sewing into the actual stitch itself. So I actually put my needle through the top of these stitches here, which causes a much cleaner, crisper look. As you can see on this side, it's very organized. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and weave in all these loose threads. And there is the base of our bandana, so you can just leave this here and add the strings, but I personally don't like the way these edges look. They're kind of messy, so I'm going to add a bit of a lace border to kind of clean it all up. So I'm going back in with my white yarn, which is the same color as the petals here, and it doesn't really matter where I start this from, so I'm just going to pick a stitch along the border. And now I'm going to be skipping this stitch and then going into the next one, and in here I'm going to put 4 double crochets. And 4. Again, I'm going to skip this stitch, so then in the next stitch, I'm going to do a slip stitch. This slip stitch kind of pulls all these double crochets down, making this like a rainbow shape. So then we're just going to skip the next stitch and then put 4 double crochets into this stitch. 4 double crochets is my preferred amount to get this little rainbow here, but if you wanted a bigger bump or a smaller one, then you could add more or less double crochets. And then again, skip a stitch and then 4 double crochets. And then just repeat that process all the way along, skipping a stitch, slip stitch, skip a stitch, 4 double crochets. And there will be some points where it's a little bit tricky to figure out where you're supposed to put your hook, just because we've done all the sewing. So just take your time and really look at your work as you go along. When I hit the corners here, I treat that no differently than I would the rest of the work. So again, I just skip a stitch and then 4 double crochet. As you work along these granny squares here, you are going to come across some points where we did those chain ones in between each of the crochets. And it's important that you put your hook actually through the chain itself and not underneath the chain. So I'm going to go right through the chain for my double crochets. That just looks so much cleaner and better with the border. So now the very last thing we have to do is add the ties to both ends of the bandana. So I'm going to go back in with the white yarn and I'm going to go kind of off of where the blue stops here. And I'm just going to start my yarn and then we begin chaining, and you can do as many chains as you want to here. I go for about 53 just because I like to have pretty long ties. 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53. There is my first tie, and if you want to keep them really thin, then you can just stop here. But I like to have a little bit more durability, so I'm going to do the same stitching as I did on the border up this tie. So I'm going to skip a stitch and double crochet 4 times. Two, 3, and 4, and then skip a stitch and slip stitch into the next one, and then just repeat that same thing all the way to the top of the tie. Once I've reached the end of my work, I'm just going to put another stitch into the actual bandana to hold the tie in place, and then we do the same thing to the other side. Again, kind of working off of the blue here. And then make sure you're chaining the same amount on both sides. 51, 52, 53. Then we're going to do the same stitching all the way up the top again, skipping a stitch and 4 doubles. Now that I've reached the top, I'm just going to cast off my work. And then I'm just going to quickly weave in these last few loose ends. And there we have our finally completed daisy bandana. This was my first time doing a crochet tutorial, so hopefully it was easy enough for you to follow. You don't have to do just the daisies for the bandana. You can do any kind of granny square that you want. I also thought it would be kind of fun to do both the center and the petals of the flower in just yellow so it would look like a sun. And if the bandana is too big, then I recommend you use a smaller hook and finer yarn. But otherwise, I hope you like the way it turned out. I think it is absolutely adorable. It's a really fast, easy project, and I'm going to make like 5 more of these so I can just always have one of these on hand in the summertime. But if you enjoyed this video at all, then please give it a like and also consider subscribing. I really appreciate any and all of your support. Also, if you want to leave a comment down below, I always like hearing from you guys, and I will see you again in a few days. Goodbye.